and I won't back down. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out.
Hey, everybody, thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. We've got some good tea tonight, but before we start, I want to tell you about one of our sponsors, Swiss America. Our country is facing so many problems these days under Joe Biden. The last thing any of us need is more to worry about. Unfortunately, we now have to fear losing our freedom and privacy with the Democrats' new push for a digital dollar that could allow the government to tell us what we can and cannot buy with our own hard-earned money. That's why I'm encouraging every one of you tuning into the show right now to get The Secret War on Cash, an insightful report created by my friends at Swiss America. With this report, you'll learn how to protect yourself from the threats facing our freedom and your hard-earned money. The report is available right now to my listeners free of charge. Just call 800-289-2646 or visit www.swissamerica.com/Trump for your free report. We got a lot of tea tonight with the ladies, and we are excited to welcome back contributing writer for the Media Research Center, Stephanie Hamill, and editor-in-chief for the Post Millennial and Human Events, Libby Emmons. Welcome back, ladies. Yeah, a lot of tea. The first of which, and maybe most importantly, a lot of people talking about Donald Trump in court. A lot of people talking about the fact that this is one of the craziest cases, and that is a lot to say. I mean, the bar is extraordinary for all of this because all these cases are insane, Libby. All these cases, Letitia James, the Attorney General of the state of New York, obviously that case is crazy. You look at old Fannie Willis down in Fulton County, Georgia, crazy, all this stuff. This one in particular, I think really gets me because we were talking before the show about just how outrageous this entire thing is and how meritless this case is. Cy Vance, the former district attorney of Manhattan, looked at this case years ago and was like, there's nothing here. This is ridiculous. Nobody would actually pursue this case. Alvin Bragg looked at this case when he was first elected as district attorney of Manhattan and said, I'm not going to pursue this case. It was only when Donald Trump announced he was running for president that Bragg went back and was like, wait a minute. I know the statute of limitations has run out on what we have here, and they actually don't have anything. What they're talking about is the fact that an accounting entry said legal services, and they're saying it shouldn't have been labeled as legal services, a payment to a lawyer, mind you, Michael Cohen. They're claiming that that is the problem. And you can't pursue something after the statute of limitations has run out. So he went ahead and elevated it to a felony. Meanwhile, you got crime running rampant in New York, actual criminals and people who are actually committing felonies and violent crimes are just let out on the street. And I also want to point out the fact that this judge has miraculously, Libby, been able to pursue multiple Trump cases. You have Alan Weisselberg, who was the CFO of the Trump Organization, twice now with this judge. Steve Bannon has this judge. Donald Trump has this judge. So you tell me how this is not a conflict of interest. You tell me how this is a good use of time, taxpayer money for the citizens of New York. This whole thing from beginning to end is egregious and crazy. And not the least problematic part of it, of course, is that Donald Trump has to physically sit in court in Manhattan right now and supposedly have a jury of his peers who we know all probably hate him and voted against him, be there to judge whether or not any of this is worth anybody's time. What do you think, Libby?
Yeah, I think Alvin Bragg ran on two things, going after Donald Trump and letting criminals out of jail. And he's done both of those things. This case against Donald Trump is absolutely absurd. As you said, these are 34 misdemeanor counts. Bragg elevated them to felonies just so that he could continue prosecuting them after the statute of limitations. And in fact, he has not even said what the felony charges are, which I believe is entirely anathema to, the Constitution. So he's got these 34 Class E felonies, the lowest form of felonies. Each one carries a prison term, potentially of something like 4 or 5 years. You could mash those all together. You get, ridiculous amount of time. And this is the thing that really gets me about this is that Alvin Bragg has not said what the felonies are. Now, for these misdemeanors to be felonies, the misdemeanors would have to be in service to some felony crime. We don't even know what that is. That just seems absolutely like this should be thrown out of court. A man deserves to know what he's being charged with. And in this case, we just don't know at all what he's being charged with. Additionally, as you said, these were payments made to an attorney. They were classified in bookkeeping records as legal fees. Okay, now I am sure that Donald Trump was not the one making the entries into QuickBooks or whatever bookkeeping software is used. And so when you're a bookkeeper, you take whatever your boss spends and you try and filter it into the account line items. I would like to know just what account line this should have gone under necessarily if we were supposed to be, if the company was supposed to be accounting for, I used to do bookkeeping, so I'm familiar with this. If the company was supposed to be accounting for where the attorney then spent the money, that's like a totally different thing. This is more than double entry? Is this quadruple entry bookkeeping? Is that what we're supposed to be doing now?
Yeah.
So all of these things I find absolutely insane. And as you said, this is a political prosecution. That's what this is about. This is designed to keep Trump off the campaign trail. It is part of this multi-pronged approach to try and make sure that he cannot secure the White House for a second term. And it's absolutely egregious. There's absolutely no basis for this.
Stephanie, I want to make sure everybody fully appreciates what's going on here. Libby touched on it. The time frame that they're arguing the problem in which the problem happened was the year 2017. Let me remind everyone where Donald J. Trump was the year 2017. He was president of the United States. He was in Washington, D.C., in the White House. He had totally dissociated himself from the Trump organization. He gave the company over and he said to my husband, Eric, and his brother, Don, you guys run things. I'm not going to be involved in any of this. The idea that Donald Trump somehow made his way to, as this is a bookkeeping error, is what they're arguing, and it's not even an error because, as Libby just said again, we're paying the money was paid back to a lawyer. They're going to try and argue, I guess. Alvin Bragg is going to argue that Donald Trump is president of the United States when he was running the country and the free world, somehow got into the accounting department at Trump Tower and said, you know what? I know how we'll get him. Let's enter this as a legal fee. That's where we are in this country. And by the way, this is over a $130,000 payment back to Michael Cohen. Again, a lawyer, an attorney, legal, okay? When you shut down the FDR or the Henry Hudson Parkway for an hour, it costs substantially more to the city of New York than $130,000. So the idea that there's any sort of pursuit of what is right and just here and that this is somehow some big affront and offense to the city of New York is preposterous, Stephanie.
It really is. I mean, you and Libby just hit on all of the most important points, is really that this case is just nonsense. These judges are handpicked. They're doing it in New York for a reason. I mean, this is just another example of get Trump at all costs, even if we have to throw out the Constitution and his rights. And you look at what's going on in New York, illegal immigrant criminals who are very violent are getting treated more fairly than Donald Trump. I mean, it is pretty despicable. Trump has said this many times that this is obvious that they're using the judicial system to go after him because he's a political candidate and they fear him. So they're really throwing everything at him and seeing what sticks here. But ultimately, I think they're going to hurt themselves, right? The rabid leftists that hate Trump are going to continue to hate him. They don't even care about these cases. They just want him to be thrown in jail because orange man bad in their head, right? But the rest of us are like, whoa, wait a minute. And there's some probably moderates and some Democrats are like, you know what, maybe this isn't right. And people really need to speak out. I'm curious about where's the outrage. Like, people in the media are totally comfortable with what's going on and the treatment that Donald Trump is receiving. I mean, this should be chilling for everyone, realizing that, you know, this isn't just an attack on Donald Trump. It's an attack against his supporters. It's an attack on our country, the Constitution, and our future. Because if this could happen to Donald Trump, it can happen to anyone.
Yep. It may be Donald Trump sitting in that courtroom, but we should all see ourselves in there because you're exactly right, Stephanie. This is much bigger than him. This is the beginning of the end of America if we're allowing things like this to successfully occur in the United States. There is no doubt about it. That's not hyperbolic in any sort of way. And you look at the fact that this man, they're trying to prevent him. Obviously, the goal, Libby talked about it too, is they're preventing him. They want to prevent him from becoming president of the United States again. Why? What is the problem with these people? Are they afraid that people are going to have more money in their pockets? Are they afraid that our country is going to be safer and more secure? Are they afraid that we wouldn't have World War III basically breaking out? You look over the weekend at what happened over in the Middle East. This is the first time Iran actually themselves, and not through some sort of proxy forces like Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, actually attacked Israel or attempted to attack Israel. I think most of the drones and missiles that they sent over were unsuccessful. I think like 99% of them or something. But this is also an example as to why Joe Biden is so bad at his job. People may remember the Iran nuclear deal, that disastrous mess of a thing that Obama implemented. There were sanctions put on Iran's ability to develop missiles and drones and have these sort of capabilities. Well, that all expired on October 18th of 2023. And instead of trying to extend it out, in order to make sure that the Middle East is safe, the world is safer, because let's face it, Iran did not abide by the sanctions of the Iran nuclear deal. And that alone should have been enough for them to say, you know what, we're not going to remove these sanctions on you. You're going to still have to abide by this stuff. They removed them. And then, of course, we saw what happened over the weekend. All of these missiles and drones sent over to Israel. Donald Trump said very clearly, Libby, this would have never happened if I were president. And you can look at that a lot of different ways. You can look at it as though, yes, Iran would not have had the funding to support Hamas, to develop these sort of things. Donald Trump certainly would not have let sanctions like that expire. And on top of that, they would have known not to even try it with our closest Middle Eastern ally, Israel. They would have never gone so far as to do something like this. But Joe Biden is there, and no one is afraid of him, and no one is worried about what he's going to do. What did you think about Donald Trump saying that if he were president, this would have never happened, Libby?
Yeah, I think that that's entirely accurate. We saw during his presidency that this did not happen. But Biden has a really big problem to his Democrat left. He has a lot of people in the progressive left who really hate Israel, who don't want any funding to go towards Israel, who are very in favor of, the Palestinian cause, who are in favor of the Arab cause to wipe out Israel. And we see that repeatedly. We're seeing that, this week, there's a whole shut down everything for Gaza protest going on all across the country. They're shutting down the Golden Gate Bridge. They're shutting down bridges in New York. They're shutting down O'Hare Airport. We're seeing this all over the place. And Biden is far more afraid of losing the support of his voters in Dearborn, Michigan, than he is, concerned with what's going to happen to Israel or what's going to happen to democracy in that region. Israel's the only democracy in the region, and Biden seems pretty willing to throw them under the bus in a very real way. We already saw that he gave, 16 billion? Was it billion or was it $1 million back to Iran in September? And it was only the money that was frozen in Qatar. And it was only a few weeks later that Iran, according to the Wall Street Journal, greenlit a massacre by Hamas on Israeli civilians. So it's really shocking when you look at what's going on with Biden and you really see that he has divided loyalties, and he's going to probably stand with this progressive left because he knows that he needs them, especially as more and more voters start looking at Donald Trump and saying, hey, the economy was better, we were safer, the border was secure, I was able to fill up my gas tank, groceries weren't $1 million, and they're looking at that. And so Biden needs these extremists in Michigan and across the country to vote for him. And I wonder that, I don't wonder, in fact, if he's going to choose them over Israel. He's going to choose them over Israel.
Yeah. The only person who's really shocked me in all of this has been the senator from Pennsylvania, Stephanie, John Fetterman, who has actually been oddly a voice of reason here and a person saying, we need to be supporting Israel and really being strong against Biden and his wavering support, as Libby's describing. What did you think, Stephanie, of Biden's response? There was some talk that he left Rehoboth Beach. He had to cut short the weekend on the beach, probably because Donald Trump was pestering him and saying, like, you need to get back there. I'm sure my father-in-law will take a lot of credit for that. But there was some reporting that that Biden went back to the White House and then recorded a message, but then never actually released it. And all he basically came out and said was that he condemned Iran's attack on Israel, but he wouldn't support a counterattack. He had a conversation with the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, where he said, you got to win, take the win. And like that, I guess he just wants them to be done with it. What did you think of Biden's response overall to this, Stephanie?
A disaster. I mean, really, this is our commander in chief, and this is how they're going to handle a situation such as this. I mean, it is truly shocking and scary what we have coming from the White House. And I don't know if you saw this Reuters report, but they were saying that Iran actually gave warning before attacking Israel, and then U.S. said it didn't happen. Now, do I trust the U.S. government officials and the Biden administration to tell us the truth right now? No. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll keep an eye on it. But really, Biden's foreign policy strategy right now is don't and stop it.
That's all he keeps saying. Every time you see him, don't. That's it. What does that mean? Can you expand a little on that, Joe? Can we get a little more? Don't forget what Donald Trump said whether it was North Korea, whether it was Iran, whoever it was, you'll be met with fire and fury, the likes of which the world has never seen. That's a message. Don't. Are you kidding me? That's all this guy has.
I pulled up a tweet of Biden from 2020. I have it here on my screen. I just want to read it to you guys. He says, Donald Trump, so this is in 2020. He says, Donald Trump has no strategy when it comes to Iran, no end game. The only way out of his self-made crisis is through diplomacy, clear-eyed, hard-nosed diplomacy grounded in strategy. That's not about one-off decisions or one-upmanship.
Wow.
Like, it's like everything that the Democrats say that Donald Trump was going to do, they actually do it. They project
They're doing it.
all of their future policy positions and the way that they're going to handle leadership. Literally, they projected it on Trump, and they're the ones that are doing it. So, I mean, I feel so badly for the people of Israel who are living in this situation. And as Donald Trump said, this wouldn't have happened under his watch. And we saw how his first term was handled, and it didn't happen under his watch. These enemies around the world see that we have a weak leader, so they're taking advantage of it. Also, when we have weak leadership who gives them money essentially by sanctions relief, that's what happened in Iran. What do you think that these people are going to do? These are the people who chant death to America on the streets. They don't like us. I mean, they would love to get us involved and dragged into all of this.
Yep. Well, the interesting thing is, God willing, we don't see a World War III, but you've never had a wartime president not reelected in the time of war. So that's all I'm going to say. I don't know what's going on. Doesn't seem like a lot of great things going on at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Don't think the response to this was right, but most of what Joe Biden has done is not right in general. You know, it's not a mystery to anybody, Libby, that NPR is no fan of ours. I think we all saw last week there was this 25-year NPR veteran who published a piece detailing the extreme leftist slant of NPR. And basically he was like, I've been there forever and I can't unsee it. He says that they weren't just left leaning and had a leftist bias. They said they went so far as to want to or go out of their way to damage Trump's presidency and find anything to harm him. I'll tell you what, as being a member of the family, I actually so many times I'm like, God, are they just out there constantly searching for anything? The answer, of course, is yes. They're always looking for things. But the funny thing to me was then they kind of went into damage control over at NPR. And they were like, oh, we've got to respond to this. We're above this. We need to respond to it. So the first guy they sent out was the same one who wrote the piece for NPR explaining why, wait for it, they were not going to give any airtime to the Hunter Biden laptop story in 2020. They were above the fray there. They couldn't be bothered with that one. And then their chief executive, Catherine Marr, I think is her name, had a response. She called it hurtful, this piece. Here's some of the memo. It is deeply simplistic to assert that the diversity of America can be reduced to any particular set of beliefs, and faulty reasoning to infer that identity is determinative of one's thoughts or political leanings. Each of our colleagues are here because they are excellent, accomplished professionals with an intense commitment to our work. We are stronger because of the work we do together, and we owe each other our utmost respect. We fulfill our mission best when we look and sound like the country we serve. So what's the mission? If the mission is to thwart Donald Trump's presidency, prevent him from becoming president again, and really just carry water for the Democrat Party, I guess they're right on message and right on mission, Libby. I love the hysteria now over at NPR.
Yeah, I think it's actually pretty hysterical as well. I used to listen to NPR pretty religiously. I still occasionally will tune in because I want to know how they are slanting the news. I used to read the New York Times quite a bit, the New Yorker, very traditionally classic, bubbled New York City liberal. And I was surprised myself when in 2016 they really took a nosedive off the deep end and stopped reporting the news and instead pretty much just went after Trump. It was a surprising thing to see then. It's not so surprising now. What is surprising is that a reporter spoke out against it. And, he's someone who actually, I went to the same college as he did. So I'm a little bit proud of him, that he wised up and started speaking out. But NPR has been stuck in this bias for a while. It's actually hysterical that the new CEO, her first order of business was to say that it was offensive to even question it. And to question their motivation. And when she says that their strength is in looking and sounding like the nation that they serve, they do not look or sound like the nation that they serve. They look and sound like, liberal Cobble Hill New Yorkers who have no idea what's going on in the rest of the country. They completely forget that, more than half the country voted for Donald Trump in 2016. And these are the same people that refused to cover the Hunter Biden laptop story when it broke in 2020 in advance of the election, and instead decided to tell everyone why they would not cover it. That was insane too. I remember that reporting so detailed. Many outlets came out with the exact same story about how it wasn't worth their time to cover it, but somehow it was worth their time to tell you that it wasn't worth their time to cover it. You know, what kind of thing is that? That's like a spurred ex-girlfriend who just comes back to yell at you because she wants you to see how pretty she looks. It doesn't make any sense. This is not a news outlet. This is a biased organization. And Uri Berliner, who wrote the article in the Free Press in the first place, blasting his employer for being this biased, he said, something along the lines of, it's not too late to turn this around. We can go back to journalistic standards. And Marr basically in her memo said, no, it is too late to turn this around. We can't go back to journalistic standards. We have to remain steeped in the, politics of oppression and grievance. And that's where they stand.
They're so dug in, Stephanie. I mean, they're gonna take this one right off the cliff if they have to. They really don't care. Here's just a reminder. I love this. Of course, throughout the article that I was reading about this, they went back and referenced the specific tweet that NPR put out about the Hunter Biden laptop story. And here's what they say. This is October 22nd, 2020, just to remind everyone. Why haven't you seen any stories from NPR about the New York Post Hunter Biden story? Read more in this week's newsletter. And then they put under it, we don't want to waste our time on stories that are not really stories. And we don't want to waste the listeners' and readers' time on stories that are just pure distractions. 1 in 6 people who voted for Joe Biden, Stephanie, say if I had known that laptop story was true, I wouldn't have voted for Joe Biden. That story was true. They absolutely failed abysmally as some sort of a journalistic news outlet to relay that information to the American people. What a disgrace. I hope they have fully discredited themselves. I believe that they're a tax-exempt company, NPR, or they have some sort of tax-exempt status. I hope they take that away, and I hope no more taxpayer money goes to NPR because they're just, it's just pure trash over there.
They do receive taxpayer dollars. They shouldn't receive a cent. And conservatives have been complaining about this for years. I mean, NPR's had a liberal slant even before Donald Trump was ever in the picture. I used to intern at PBS, so it's like we knew it was there. I used to listen to NPR, but you could tolerate it. And sometimes they had good stories. But after Donald Trump came into the picture, it's like all of these so-called journalists, their heads exploded and it broke them. They just couldn't handle it. And so, as you mentioned, the quote mission of NPR, it seems like they abandoned journalism and the mission began to carry the water for Democrats and to promote the liberal agenda and go after Donald Trump at all costs. And honestly, like I found that article written by Uri Berlinger complaining about what's going on at NPR to be rather delicious. I enjoyed every second of it because this is all of what we already knew what was going on there. It's just finally one of the liberals who work there finally got tired of the lack of curiosity and the lack of journalism going on in the newsroom. And he said he didn't vote for Donald Trump 2 times. He's not a Donald Trump supporter. He is a liberal. He said he is a Subaru driving Berkeley style liberal whose mother was a lesbian peace activist. So I don't think he's going to vote for Donald Trump in 2024, but he said, he's basically ashamed of what's going on at NPR. What I found fascinating is that he's still employed by NPR. We'll see how much longer this goes on for. I have a feeling that they're not going to let this slide because they're totally embarrassed. But again, we didn't really learn anything that we didn't know. But another big point I thought was interesting is that he complained about how many liberals work for NPR. And he gave an example of the Washington, D.C. bureau there. He said 87 of the editors were registered Democrats and there were 0 Republicans. So when they talk about how they represent the people of America and the country, no, they don't. They represent the people who are in their bubble, who despise Americans and regular people in rural areas. I mean, it's just, they're so out of touch. It really sends chills down my spine how out of touch these people are.
Yeah, well, I'll say maybe Yuri's not a traditional Trump voter. Maybe he never voted, or he didn't vote for us in the previous 2 election cycles. I'm gonna offer it up. Come on over to the team. You're all already partially there because you started seeing how asinine this stuff is and really how bad for the country and the world this is. You can't operate like this. This is like state-run media. This stuff is insane. So you're almost there, Yuri. If you need a little more convincing, just, tune into The Right View. We'll talk you through it. I think you'll feel very good about yourself on the other side. All right, nobody move. We're going to take a quick commercial break. All right, I hate to interrupt the show, but I wanted to share a new company with you called Googie Pet. Googie Pet is a total game changer for dogs. Pet owners care deeply about our pets because they're our family. I've introduced my dogs to Googie Pet all-natural vitamin chews, and the transformation has been incredible. Big brands often put profits before our pets' health, but Googie Pet is different. It started with 3 dog-loving brothers on a mission. Partnering with a PhD animal nutritionist, they created Googie Pet. It focuses on bringing dog vitamin chews that are made in the USA, and every ingredient has a purpose: improving the health and happiness of our dogs. The Googie Pet 10-in-1 multivitamin chews can not only improve your pet's joint flexibility and energy levels, but can also make their coats softer and shinier than ever. I like to keep my dogs moving and very active, so it's good to know I'm able to keep them even more active by adding this supplement to their daily routine. Googie Pet also offers different products like their hemp calming chews that can naturally ease anxiety, making dogs calmer, happier, and healthier. I'm so passionate about creating positive changes in dogs that I want to offer a special 20% discount code just for you. Just visit googiepet.com/Lara Trump. That's GOOGIPET.com/Lara Trump. And it'll redirect you to buy these products straight from Amazon. You can also use code Lara Trump, LARATRUMP, at checkout for 20% off. As a busy mom, I know the importance of being prepared. Let's face it, life can be unpredictable. Whether it's sudden storms, power outages, or other unpredictable events in life, being prepared with ReadyWise emergency food gives you peace of mind knowing you'll have delicious, nutritious meals on hand. They're also great on camping trips and hiking adventures. ReadyWise has a huge selection of freeze-dried meals from breakfast to pasta dishes. You can rest assured that your food will be good to eat when you need it with their 25-year shelf life. ReadyWise is an American company providing high-quality, delicious food packed at their state-of-the-art plant right here in the USA. That means you're supporting American jobs when you choose ReadyWise. Always be prepared. Visit ReadyWise.com and use promo code Trump20 at checkout for 20% off regular priced items. That's ReadyWise.com, promo code TRUMP20. So we know, ladies, that they love to virtue signal on the left. It's pretty much the only thing they know. They don't really want to operate in facts or truth or actually apply things that are beneficial for people or that work. It's just a lot of virtue signaling over there. And turns out the Biden campaign couldn't help themselves. They had to get involved themselves as well. And they are hiring, or they're looking for, so everybody listen up, this could be right up your alley, everybody, a $120,000 per year diversity, equity, and inclusion director for the Biden campaign. This was very important for them to have. This is the job description, Libby, in case you are curious and might want to put in an application. The DEI director will focus on creating and executing a comprehensive strategy to attract and support diverse talent to further the campaign's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. They will also be responsible for upskilling and further educating campaign staff around DEI. Got to make sure everyone understands how important and vital DEI is at the Biden campaign. The focus is strategic and programmatic in nature, and experience in the DEI space is essential. Their other responsibilities include the development of DEI workshops, going to workshop a lot of stuff over there for staffers so they can keep up with the latest sensitivities on issues of race, sex, and gender. I'm just going to throw it out there. If you have a candidate who has the lowest approval rating of any incumbent in history, and the polling reflects that you are losing all of the battleground states to your opponent, and this is what you want to do, here's what my message to the Biden campaign. Guys, keep on going. This is excellent. Well done over at the Biden campaign, Libby.
Yeah, this is exactly what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris think is the most important. They think that a rainbow array of people who have exactly the same viewpoints and absolutely closed minds is the most important thing to present to the American people. That's what they've done for the past 4 years, and that's what they're going to do in the campaign. So it's really no surprise that this is where they're focusing their efforts. Perhaps they can get Karine Jean-Pierre in there, and she can lead another rousing rendition of the A Different World theme song, as we saw recently on Twitter, and that'll be just great, and that'll do everything for them. This is a campaign that doesn't care what you think. It doesn't care what your qualifications are. It doesn't care anything about your background other than what you look like, and making sure that you can check off all of the various diversity boxes that include nothing about anything in your perspective. So yeah, it's not surprising. This is what the Democrats want to pay for. This is what they're going to pay for. And I'm sure that they'll get some marvelous Berkeley grad to come on over there, wear some Birkenstocks, and get it going.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they're very excited about this position. Such a necessity for a campaign. Let me tell you, you can tell though, Stephanie, that they are in a bit of a panic on the left because they know their candidate, quite frankly, sucks. No one is excited about Joe Biden. They're really embarrassed by him most of the time. So these are kind of things I look for, and I'm like, oh, I wonder who offered up to give them this idea. The Daily Mail did a poll, and 55% apparently of the people they polled said that Donald Trump, if reelected president of the United States, would try to stay past the 4-year term limit. First of all, let me be the first to just say this directly to whoever conducted this poll and anyone who may have voted in this. Donald Trump doesn't even want to be doing any of this now, but he feels like he has to because he has to save this country Believe me, if there was any threat of Donald Trump staying past his time in office, are you guys kidding me? He's already been president and he left despite the fact that there were a heck of a lot of questions about that election. So the idea that this is what they're putting out there, clearly, Stephanie, tells me they're getting pretty nervous and they're like, how do we scare people into voting for Joe Biden? Tell them Trump's not leaving. Wow.
Talk about fake news. I mean, I almost feel like it was a waste of time to read that article. I can't believe it made it to print. Like, who in the newsroom said, okay, yeah, we're going to give the green light on this? You know, there were multiple people involved in that process of getting this online for us to read. I mean, we actually were warned about this the first time around in Trump's first term. These liberals and media heads like hysterically hyperventilating about how Trump's never going to leave office. He's going to be a dictator and a tyrant. And the only people that are operating like tyrants right now are the people in the Biden administration. So
correct.
Again, I mean, it's so ludicrous. It's absurd. And I hate the fact that we even have to talk about this because that it made it to print. Come on.
Yeah, but this is what they're going to try and do. I mean, the reality is it's not as though there's some incredible plan and vision for the future of America under Joe Biden, right?
Yeah.
They can't tout any great achievements and things that he's done that's made life better for anyone in this country. So they're going to scare tactics. They're going to these ridiculous polls that suggest people think Donald Trump isn't going to leave office. He will leave office in January of 2029. I believe he'll become the 47th president. I believe he will save America and reestablish our footing on the world stage, really get the world back in order because God knows it's a mess right now. Look at what 3 years of Joe Biden has gotten us. And then I believe he will happily leave the Oval Office January of 2029 and sail off into the sunset. And by that, I mean probably be on Truth Social every day, just giving it to the Democrats, which we love. So
one more note on the article is that smart people know it's BS. But then there are other people who will be influenced by that and use that as a talking point for why they're not going to support Trump. And it just gives them more fuel for their fire. So again, it's just such a disservice to the readers of the Daily Mail. I mean, honestly, it's totally absurd.
Yeah, well, this is the game they're going to have to play. Just to end on what I think is kind of a fun note, I feel like I travel a lot. The travel I'm doing, I wouldn't label as pleasurable in any sort of way. This is work travel. Traveling lately has been absolutely horrific. I've had a lot of flights that have been delayed indefinitely, or I've had to fly into different airports. It's been pretty bad. However, SAS Airlines, this is a Scandinavian airline. I actually flew them last summer for the first time ever. Lovely airline. They had this contest where they chose people, I guess 6,000 people signed up for Libby, a flight to an unknown destination. Only the pilots that day found out where everybody was going. And they ended up going to Athens, Greece. And it was apparently some sort of a really great experience for the people who ended up getting on this flight and traveling there. Here's my question. A, would you ever just get on a plane with no idea where you're going? I kind of think it's a fun thing. And B, I think this is one of the things that we can all agree on and all get along. Maybe this could help bridge the gap between Democrats and Republicans. Maybe we all need to just get on flights and just go to unknown destinations. What'd you think, Libby?
Yeah, I'd do that. That sounds like kind of fun, especially if I didn't have a lot of plans, and I had some free time, a little extra money to spend once I got there, for sure. Especially if your options are things like Athens. I mean, what a spectacular city. I've been to Athens once. I would more than happily go back to Athens again. It's a great place. I think that's really fun. It's nice to see some adventure come back in air travel. Like you, I travel a lot for work, and it can really be a chore. You're going in and out of the same airports over and over again. You have to make connections. There's always some family wearing matching T-shirts, and the babies are screaming, and everyone's going nuts. And there's some curmudgeonly man who's wearing like 10 masks, and just doesn't, afraid for you to be near him. So yeah, a little adventure in air travel, sign me up.
Yeah. Stephanie, I just love this. I think we need more of this. I feel like things are, I don't want to say they're predictable, but we're so connected by social media and the internet. It really takes a lot of mystery out of life. We do have the ability to access so much that something like this, I just thought was very cool. And I love that they did this.
I love, love, love the idea. This article made me smile. And personally, I wouldn't do this just because I feel like I wouldn't know what to pack. And then
I know, I
I'd
did
feel
think of
stressed
that.
out. And then I'm like, I have such a hard time shopping that I never like anything. So it's like I wouldn't be able to shop there and find all the things that I need. And I'm kind of a fear monger. What if they sent me somewhere that's like dangerous or I didn't like? But I like the idea for like my friends or me back when I was like in my early 20s when I didn't care about things so much. But it's a neat concept, and hopefully they'll continue to do it. And hopefully some of my friends will go on these trips and then tell me all about it. Or maybe you,
There
Lara,
you
you can tell
go.
me about it.
Yeah, by the way, November 6th of this year, I'm available. We'll be done with this election. Donald Trump will be president-elect. I'm going to need a vacation somewhere. And ironically, 3 days after the November 5th election is my 10-year wedding anniversary to
Wow.
That'll be
Eric
so
Trump.
exciting.
I'm sure he's been planning already, but I'm just throwing it out. If he needs an idea, I'm just gonna go ahead and say I'm down for this one. This sounds amazing. All right, Libby and Stephanie, thank you both for joining us here at The Right View. To everybody at home, as always, make sure you like, subscribe, share, and follow. We'll see you back here next time for more of The Right View.
And I won't back down. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out.
Nothing is worse than being on a phone call that drops. Nothing is worse than trying to text someone and you can't reach them because your phone is out of service range. And nothing is worse than supporting these major corporations and companies who don't support us. That is why I love Patriot Mobile. They are America's only Christian conservative wireless network. They use every cell tower out there available to all networks so that they have the greatest 4G and 5G coverage nationwide, and they support the causes that are important to us as conservatives. If you go today to patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump and use the promo code Trump, you will get free activation today. Again, that is patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump. The promo code is Trump for free activation so that you can get a great cell plan and feel good about doing it.